Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Zeal Alien Dimension Police standard deck profile for post-clan selection Volume 2. We were finally given Galactic Beast Zeal in standard format. For those of you that don't know, this was a ride chain back during the limit break format of Cardfight Vanguard that basically gave minus power to your opponent's Vanguard, and it still continues on with that trend with the newest standard addition to the Dimension Police lineup. We were given basically the entire ride chain aside from the starter for standard format, and like I said, they follow suit, being able to just reduce power to your opponent's Vanguard and then just hit with some pretty pressured rearguard attacks and your Vanguard altogether, and marked with Imaginary Gift Force 2, just that much more of a pressure deck, just weakening your opponent's Vanguard down to basically almost zero and below. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the grade 3s in the deck, our main one is Galactic Beast Zeal on Vanguard or rear. When placed from hand, look at the top card of your deck and call it to rear. If this unit's on Vanguard, choose one of your opponent's Vanguards and it gets minus 5,000 until end of turn for each marker on your opponent's circles. So the more your opponent has, Imaginary Gift Force or any other marker on their field, so even if they have Protect 2 or even Excel, they get minus power for each circle on the field, so the later the game goes, the stronger this card is. And on Vanguard Circle, once per turn, you can counterblast one, put one or more rear guards into your soul, choose one of your opponent's Vanguard until the end of turn, it gets minus 10,000 power. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and Devouring of Planets Zeal is in your soul, this unit gets drive +1 for every 2 cards put into your soul for this cost. So that is immense pressure, just based on the triggers you can get from this card for that setup, being able to then, you don't just hit zero. In Cardfight Vanguard, you keep minusing based on the amount that you can use, and just having the when placed and then the once per turn counterblast and just that investment to get more and more drive checks with this card is what makes it so scary. You can just have all that pressure, giving all that additional power to your rear guards or your Vanguard if the attack hits, and with Force 2 having that critical pressure, you can hit for some pretty high damage with this card alone. For the backup grade 3 for the deck, I also decided to run 4 Dimensional Robo Dizeros on Vanguard during your turn. This unit gets plus 5,000 for each card in your damage zone, but we mostly use it for the rearguard support to work with Galactic Beast Zeal at the end of the battle attack. If your Vanguard's power is 35,000 or greater, counter +1, put this unit to your soul, and one of your Vanguards gets plus 10,000 power and drive +1 until end of turn. So this was the only thing justifying us to use Force 1, because we definitely have the pressure alone with Zeal to just have immense drive checks. Adding that additional power with Dizeros gives us options for more and more drive checks against our opponent, while also just having that power play for having the added power on to our Vanguard. So very, very useful there for sure, and it just works very, very well with the rest of the ride chain all together. For the grade 2s in the deck, I am running 4 Devourer of Planets Zeal on Vanguard or rear once per turn. Counterblast 1 and rest 2 rear guards. Choose one of your opponent's Vanguard. It gets minus 5,000 until end of turn. If Devourer of Planets Zeal is in your soul, you draw a card. So with this card, you have more and more options with your Devourer of Zeal for just all the additional setup you can use on the field. It's very, very scary for that. And when rode upon by a grade 3, choose one of your opponent's Vanguard, and it gets minus 5,000 power until end of turn. I think it might be a mistake for the Devourer of Planets Zeal. I'll have to double check that, because the grade 1 is Eye of Destruction Zeal, but we'll double check that. And if that's the case, I will update it in the video description as well, because more than likely it's working like the ride chain with the grade 3 focusing on Devourer of Planets Zeal. I'm just now noticing that mistake on the English card. But once again, just great for that minus power early game as well. You don't just have to rely when you're on grade 3. That's what makes it the most familiar with the original ride chain. With each one you had going into the new grade, you gave more and more minus power to your opponent's units, and this card just adds to that by being able to do minus 5,000 that much easier just on rear guard as well as the Vanguard circle. For additional support, I am running 4 Dimensional Robo Die Dragon. The Dimensional Robo support is still pretty generic in standard format, with Die Dragon being able to have, just plus 10,000 power if your Vanguard's power is 35,000 or greater, and also being able to have a Soul Blast 1 once per turn to have one of your Vanguards get plus 5,000. So that additional pressure can definitely come in handy just to hit higher numbers against your opponent's already lowering numbers, and then giving you the option for this card to have even more power when you give the trigger units to your own Vanguard for the investment. For the last of the grade 2s, I also run 4 Platinum Ace on Vanguard during your turn. This unit gets plus 5,000. And on rear, once per turn, when it attacks, if you're grade 3 or greater Vanguard, it's 30,000 or greater. Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets plus 10,000 power and critical plus 1 until end of turn. So it's just another rear guard addition for pressure. Most of the time, I do like to go for Force 1 just to have the additional backup with Dizeros and Zeal. Having all those Force 1 markers means more and more power and benefits for Dizeros and Die Dragon. Then we can just rely on the critical triggers and the pressure alone of Platinum Ace to hit our opponent for those bigger numbers. And that is it for the grade 2s. We'll now move on to the grade 1s. The grade 1 version of Zeal is Eye of Destruction Zeal. On Vanguard or rear when placed, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 grade 2 or greater card with Zeal in its card name from among them, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. This ability may only be used by a card with the same name once a turn. So it's basically so you can't ride this card and then also call an additional one and just keep getting more and more Zeals added to your hand. It's mostly there just for the search power. Having this card as your go-to ride target is great for that setup, and then just being able to use it again next turn. Let's say you search the grade 2 off of this card first, and then next turn have another one, just call that one to rear, and then you can potentially search the grade 3 also. And one of the newest cards, it was an expensive promo for a good while, but reprinted in the Clan Selection Volume 2, and that is Twin Order. On rear, when it boosts, one of your Vanguards gets plus 10,000 power until end of turn for each of your Force markers. So even if we do go Force 2, this card can provide the power needed to Galactic Beast Zeal for that power boost. Since it does say end of turn, it won't lose that power after it attacks. Having just that additional power options for cards like Die Dragon, very, very useful altogether for the pressure to use against your opponent. It's a rear guard boost, and you really don't have any other minus. There's no, put this card into the soul or retire this unit after you use it. It's just for each of your Force markers. So the later the game goes, just as Zeal gets powerful, your Twin Order will also get more, strength from it. And I also run 3-dimensional Robo Die Scoper. This one is mostly here for the option of another ride target. When rode upon, look at 7 cards from the top of your deck and reveal up to 1 grade 3 from among them. Put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So it's not as good as the Zeal search, but still a good option to have for the different grade 3s we run in the deck. And when placed, one of your grade 3 Vanguards gets plus 5,000 to end of turn. It's just an additional power boost card. Yeah, that's why I like the 3 of, just because you're not really using your Twin Order for any Vanguard ride targets. We mostly just rely on Zeal and the Die Scoper for the go-to ride targets in the deck. But most of the time you do want to run Zeal just so you have that setup for the grade 2 and 3 Zeals also. And then lastly, for the grade 1s, just for a little more defensive playstyle, I run 2 Sludge Monster Drohead with this one. On guard circle, when placed, you counterblast 1, and your opponent cannot boost until end of turn. That is a pretty, restrictive card. If you just guard with this card first, it takes away from the potential power boost that your opponent may have, and the fact that we have that additional power for the minus 10,000 power until end of turn. You just have that option and comeback that your opponent has to rely on against you without the boost option against your opponent. So I like to run 2 of it. It's just a tech option for sure for the the defensive part of the deck. We have more of the offensive power with everything else set up, and this just helps with it. And then that's it for the grade 1s. Moving on now to the grade 0s. Like I said, there's no Zeal starter, so we're just running the 1 Little Hero Drago Kid, having the updated text for the Quick Shield and the grade 1 option. Just great for the theme to the deck. I didn't really want to run a dimensional Robo option in the lineup. I wanted to focus mostly on the alien-like starters. And I would say this card is definitely the most fitting, with the other one being more for Grand Gallop and the other one being for dimensional Robos. For the trigger lineup, I am running the 8 critical still, so with it just kind of limited to the triggers we can use, since a good amount of them are dimensional Robos. But once again, just great pressure, and there's no restriction to any of the other options we have in the deck. Just using these cards for that pressure and just the most available ones ready. For the Sentinel, I'm also running the draw trigger just so we can have the guaranteed guard against my opponent. With this deck, you can have some pretty good hand consistency with this also, so provided you have the cost needed for the discard for the Sentinel. And lastly, the 4 heal, just being Gore Rescue. Once again, just standard for the lineup. There is still like a hero option. We didn't really have any alien heals in standard format, but still would have been very, very fitting for this deck as a whole. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. It's definitely an interesting deck to look at. Zeal is definitely a different take on the dimensional robos that I've done on the channel for the past couple of years, for standard format being more of the alien lineup. And we still got a couple more decks to get to from the Clan Selection Volume 2. So I hope you all look forward to those. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.